Okay, so my game plan for today, I want to introduce you to our course, figure out or help you figure out exactly what to expect week to week and throughout the whole semester. I want to spend some time where you guys are looking through the material and figuring out what you think is important or confusing or surprising. Um, I want to spend a little bit of time setting class expectations, what you expect from me, what I expect from you. Some of you in my lab might have realized I said that and forgot to actually spend the time doing it. So we're going to do that today. I want to have a discussion with you guys about what you want to expect during class. Um, then I actually want to get started on some underlying principles of chemistry. So we're going to have just a brief discussion on the fundamental forces of nature and how that kind of is a building block for us this semester. So when you guys head to Canvas, this is your landing page. It's not my design, but it's not a bad design. There are, I would say, two good hot links here, and that's the course recordings and the YouTube links. If there's a day that you can't come to class, this isn't an online or a hybrid class, so I can't guarantee that the recordings will be there, that the recordings will be of good quality, or that there won't be technical issues, but 9 times out of 10, I'm able to record the class, and you're able to catch up on the notes from that. And again, like I said, I'll be posting them to YouTube, so you'll be able to find them there as well if you don't like the interface that Canvas has. As you scroll down to the bottom, this is where I've started to make some edits from our course leads template. I've added these 3 documents that you're going to be using throughout the entire semester. The first is a periodic table, but it's not just any periodic table. This is the periodic table that you'll be given during exams. This is the periodic table that I want you to be familiar with. You'll notice that there's not a periodic table in our classroom. So throughout the semester, when the periodic table is useful, I'm going to have it projected up here on the screen so that I can help familiarize you with it. But I encourage you to print this off so that you have it while you're studying, or that you have it pulled up all the time you're doing homework or while you're reviewing. I will say that when you test, a copy will be given to you. You won't be allowed to bring your own copy in. The next document underneath your periodic table is your midterm equations sheet. This will also be given to you when you test. You're welcome to print it off in advance. Get familiar with it. This is a tool, and a tool is only as useful as you know how to use it. So I'm going to be having this pulled up throughout the semester.
General chemistry?
Yes, it is. I'll have this pulled up prior to our midterm, and I'll help you get familiar with where things are laid out. This isn't something that I designed. I personally maybe would have designed it a little bit differently, but again, a tool is only as useful as you know how to use it. So we're going to get familiar with this tool so that we know how to use it when we get to the exams. Then for your final, you'll have a different equations sheet. It has all of the same information that the midterm has, plus additional information that we'll learn in the second half of the semester. The last document, the one that I intentionally have auto open every time you open this page, is the course schedule according to my rough estimations. You guys might know that these college classes often fall out of pace. Sometimes we go faster than expected, sometimes we fall behind. This is what I anticipate our pace will be this semester. In purple are the lecture days. You guys know that we missed lecture on Monday. I'm not happy about it, but I don't control the schedule of the college. And we'll be missing lecture on Monday for Labor Day. Some of the other sections are planning to have their first test, which is in blue, on this weekend from the 11th to the 14th. I decided that for our section, we should push that back a week. That gives us these 2 extra class periods to actually come together, learn material, and strengthen your understanding of those first 2 units before you go on and get tested on them. In the spring semester, I had a similar issue where I lost a lecture or 2 early on in the semester, and I found that I had to push my unit tests. So I'm planning on that this semester, and I'm giving us more time. I do want to say this is open to negotiation on my end, which means if we do get through our first 2 units by the 10th, I might suggest that you start taking that unit test early. I might leave it open for this entire period, but if we get through that material by the 10th, I'm going to move on to the next set of material as soon as I can. Does that make sense? Because this earlier stuff is the easy stuff. I don't want to spend more time on it than we need to. Later in the semester, it's going to feel like we are breezing through some really challenging topics. So if I can gather up more time early on in the semester, I'm going to do that. But I'm trying to be realistic about our pace as well. So this is a rough schedule. Things are flexible. They might change. I do respect your time. I value your time. And I know that a lot of you have very busy lives. So since I'm telling you to plan for this weekend for a unit test, if I do open that unit test earlier, I will leave the unit test available for as long as I told you it would be available. But I'm not going to encourage you to wait. I'm not going to encourage you to push it off. I'm going to encourage you to take it as soon as you can. Fall break doesn't affect our class schedule, but you will see that it overlaps with our second unit test. I don't feel as bad asking you to take a unit test over fall break because I see that as part of the point of fall break. You have a little bit of an easier schedule during this week, at least you should, and you still have at least this weekend period to try and schedule yourself for the unit test. I'm giving you this in advance so that you can look forward in your calendar and try to carve out time as early as you can to make space for that unit test. You will have this entire week to take your midterm exam, but you will not be taking your midterm exam here with me. So I intend on using those lecture periods to review for the midterm. Now, I'm not a big fan of asking you to go to the testing center outside of the time that you have already dedicated to this class to take an exam for this class. I see kind of an issue with that. I teach the organic lectures here as well, some of them, and I take away class time to administer my organic exams. But your midterms are 3 hours long. You're allowed 3 hours, and I don't have 3 hours to offer you. So if you don't have time outside of our class meeting to take that midterm, then I'm offering that you schedule your midterm during our class period. It would mean sacrificing some of that review, but it would mean not having to find an alternative time outside of your schedule, or inside of your schedule outside of our class time to try and take that exam. This is something that you have to do. It's not something that I can do for you. You can't do it yet, though, because I haven't submitted your exams to the testing center. As soon as I submit them, I'll send an email to you guys and let you know that you're able to schedule them. And again, I would encourage you to schedule them sooner than later so that you get a time that fits into your schedule. If these review days don't really have a lot of questions, if you guys don't have things to bring up, I may just start moving forward in our material. But I have planned for these 2 days to be missed from our content. Part of that means that we have to move quicker throughout the rest of our class time, but it gives you an opportunity to ask questions, find clarification on concepts, do a little bit more practice before you go and take your midterm. Does that sound okay? Our third and fourth unit test are probably the two closest ones. That's because our fourth and final unit test covers the least amount of information. Not only is it just 2 units, but this second unit is about half of what the textbook actually covers. It's really the smallest section. I've covered this entire unit in one class period before. It goes pretty quick. But you will see that we lose a day to Thanksgiving break. And then our very last lecture, I've shaded this as a different color green than your other midterm exams. This is our final class period, and we will be using it to hold the ACS final exam. It will be a part of your grade, but that grade will go into your homework category, which is not worth as much as your unit tests and exams category. So it holds weight on your grade, but it's not a significant weight. It's not going to make or break your grade. The reason that we are administering the ACS exam is because we want to use it as a reference point for how all of our sections are doing from spring to fall semester. We administered this in the spring semester. We're administering it again now, and we're trying to use it as a reference point. So this is a mandatory exam day. This is one that you come to class for. It will only take up half of our lecture period, which means the second half of our lecture period will be for review. We'll spend the rest of the time reviewing for the final exam. My goal in these last 3 weeks of class is to finish units 9 and 10 in these 3 days, to give you this Monday class to review for the final, and to give you the second half of this Wednesday class to review for the final. I'm giving you those 2 days of review for the midterm. I'm trying to give you time for review for the final as well. I can't guarantee it. If we need to cover the material, we need to cover the material. I'd rather I set you up for the material than ask you to just figure it out somehow. But that will be our plan, is to cover it as quick as we can so we have extra time to review. Your final exam, you can test Monday through Thursday. You will not be able to test on that Friday of finals week. Our class period has a specific meeting time for the final exam, but we won't be meeting during it. Instead, you'll be scheduling your own time at the testing center. Again, once I get that posted, I'll email you guys and let you know that you can schedule, and you can fit one of those 4 days into your schedule wherever it works best. Do you guys have any questions on the course schedule, the course calendar?
What is an ACS exam?
Great question. ACS is the American Chemical Society. So this is a nationwide organization, kind of the pioneer of organizations around chemistry. They write standardized multiple choice exams for general chemistry, organic chemistry, physical chemistry, I want to say even high school chemistry tests. A lot of institutions don't write their own exams, but they only administer ACS exams. We have exams that are written by our course lead, Ryan Holcomb. But we'll be using this American Chemical Society standardized exam as just that, a standardized exam that we repeat semester after semester as a benchmark for our students. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is it cumulative? So is it going to cover like all the material from beginning?
The final exam is cumulative as well.
Okay.
So the final exam you have that cheat sheet or equations sheet for the final exam. And you will see that all of the material that was on the midterm equations sheet is on the final exam equations sheet. So cumulative and cumulative, yes, good question. Other questions on the calendar?
The final 3 hours as well?
Yes. Unless things have changed, the final should be 3 hours as well. I'll double check on that,
The unit tests are 2 hours long, but the final and the midterm should be 3 hours. Great question. Your unit tests are built to be preparation for the midterm and the final. And after the unit tests are completed, you'll be able to go back in and review your questions and answers. So you'll be able to use those as kind of preparation for the midterm and final. Some of these unit tests also have practice unit tests. So let's look at the unit 1 to 2 unit test. You get this unit 1 to 2 practice test to prepare you for the actual test. I may have misspoken. I'll need to check. I can't remember exactly if you get to see your actual unit test, but this is available. The practice test is available for you to continue to review. Our STEM Learning Center, how many of you know where the STEM Learning Center is? Upstairs at the end of the hall, 101 and 201. They hold midterm and final exam review sessions for this class, and they have practice tests. So you'll be able to go there. If you can't stay, you'll at least be able to take a copy of that practice test for you. By the way, the STEM Learning Center, not just a place to go ask questions. That's a place for studying if you need it. It's a place to get busy and do your homework. I know some of you think, I don't want to go to this tutoring center because I don't have any questions for tutors. But once you start doing your homework, you're going to have questions. And it's best if you start doing that in a tutoring center, because when those questions come up, you've got the resources for you. So I really encourage you guys to go to the STEM Learning Center, get familiar with it, make it a spot that you like to go and study. They would love for that room to be completely packed so that they can push for a larger space to make more room for students like you guys. Any other questions so far?
I see that this practice test has 2 attempts. Does it regenerate new questions or repeat questions from the first attempt?
No, it does not generate new questions. It's the same questions that come back. So to phrase it a different way, it doesn't pull questions out of a bank, but it is just a set of questions that you'll get to take again. The idea there is kind of mastery. Take it the first time, see what you got wrong and what you got right. Go back in and master those same questions that you got wrong. Okay, I would like to take 5 to 10 minutes for you guys to actually work with one another to look at our syllabus. If you are able to pull up Canvas, either on your phone, your laptop, your iPad, you can go to this simple syllabus link on the left-hand side of our course. I want you to spend some time, introduce yourself to your classmates, share your name, and then spend some time finding 3 things. Maybe these 3 things are the most important things to know. Maybe some of them are confusing things. Maybe some of them are surprising things that you weren't expecting to find in this course. Get to know each other. Decide on 3 things that you want to report back to the class. I'm going to hand out a slip of paper and some information that I want you to put on it. I'm going to hand that out to you while you do this assignment. I'll pull us back in together in a little bit. Great. I'm glad you're here, but yeah, just work with them.
But we're staying.
You're going to get into the class. It might not be today, it might be tomorrow, but I've already submitted the request for the cap to be increased so that you can come in. So I'm glad you came.
Are we allowed to take a pause? Like things that you weren't expecting to find. I wonder if like the communications like if they follow like the chemistry. Oh, they are? Oh, that's your sister. Yeah, the register. There was another one. Yeah.
It is phenomenal. Luckily,
Oh, I guess. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Don't know how much it's worth, but it is.
you will need a calculator. There's a lot of different kinds of denominators.
Oh.
I don't think you can do this by and there's not a physical textbook, but there's a online textbook that is the learning platform. The whole platform. Dealing with art is that online. Anybody else having trouble with simple syllabus? Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. If you want to try switching to Bluetooth Wi-Fi, but if not, maybe you can work with your partner's phone and what's on there. What that is, that's great.
All right, before we dive into what you guys found on the syllabus, I do want to take a second to help you guys get to know me and have you guys help me get to know you. So if you give me your name, especially the name you want me to call you this semester, if those names are very different, like the name that I'm going to see on Canvas and the name you want me to call you, maybe put both and circle your preferred name so I at least know how to mark you as
in attendance for today's class. You guys can call me John. I know that not every student is comfortable calling their instructor by their first name, so I'm happy to be called professor or instructor, teacher. Technically, doctor would be wrong. I don't have my doctorate degree. You could call me Master John or Master Flood. I do have my master's degree. I'm not a Jedi, but I'll take it. I use he, him pronouns, and since I was a sophomore in college, I wanted to be a chemistry professor. I actually started college as a business major. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin. I got my bachelor's from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And I started out wanting to study business to go back home and take over the family business. I took an elective, non-majors chemistry course, and I was so bored. And I told my friends, this class sucks. And they were like, yeah, it sucks. This class is so hard. And I was like, oh no, it's like nowhere near as hard as I thought it would be. And they said, you should probably study chemistry more. So I took general chemistry and switched my major to chemistry with a business minor. And then I took a few more business classes and realized it had no appeal to me. I had started tutoring chemistry as a freshman in college, and I knew that I loved interacting with students, interacting with education. I didn't love interacting with chemistry, but I loved the concept of chemistry. So I set my sights on becoming a chemistry professor. I applied to 5 different graduate programs, got accepted to 1, rejected from the U. It's okay, I'm not there, so I'm here. I got accepted to CU Boulder, and I moved out there after getting my bachelor's in chemistry. And 2 years into the PhD program, I realized that I did not want a PhD. It was not something that interested me. Like I said, chemistry never appealed to me. Chemistry was just interesting. Being in the lab, coming up with ideas, that wasn't something that made me want to get up in the morning. So I heard stories of students that left their PhD program with master's degrees instead and got hired by community colleges. So I took a risk. I left my program. I got a master's. And I got hired here at Slick 4 years ago to teach labs. And I loved it. I'd never been at a community college before. I'd recommend it to anybody, but you guys are already here, so good job. I started lecturing about 3 years ago for organic chemistry, but my dream was always to teach general chemistry. Organic seemed like a good challenge, though, so I started learning how to be a better educator, how to run a classroom. I started taking college education credential courses. And this is actually my fun fact, is that I want to be a lifelong learner. I've taken 4 different courses on how to be an effective college educator. The class that I taught 3 summers ago for my first lecture looks nothing like the class that I teach now. The way that I set up the first day, the way that I set up my Canvas, the way that I design my courses, the way that I interact with my students. It's all changed because of the education I've got, and I only want to keep pursuing more education. I'm also a student of the language of Arabic. Duolingo is not going well. I'm taking a college course on Arabic this fall as well. And I'll tell you what, nothing makes me relate more to the shoes that you guys are in than trying to learn a new language. Because that's what chemistry is too. You're gonna feel dumb. You're gonna feel like you don't know your ABCs when you start learning chemistry. You're gonna feel like you don't know how to read, write, or talk. That is what it's like to learn a new language. That's what it's like to learn chemistry. So I understand the struggle, and I'm gonna do everything I can to explain it all, to make sure that you don't fall into these common pitfalls, that we clear up misconceptions right in the spot, right in the moment, in class. Make sure that you guys have as strong of a grasp on chemistry as you can. That's my job. And it's the job I've wanted for a long time. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm happy that you are here, whether or not you're happy to be here, but hopefully someday you will be. I hope that by the end of this semester, whether you are excited about chemistry or not,
you at least have a different perspective on the world around you. You've got a better perspective on your macro scale life with a molecular scale understanding. That's my goal. So, those cards help me get to know you a little bit better. I'm going to wait until our break in the class to actually pick them up, so you guys can just hold on to them for right now. I want to go back to this syllabus reconnaissance that you guys did, and I want to talk about things that you thought were important, surprising, or confusing that you saw in the syllabus. Anybody want to kick us off? Right. So, Real Chem is our textbook. You don't need to go anywhere else for a textbook. It's an online textbook. There may be a way for you to get a print version of that textbook. I'm not actually sure. I will say that a lot of the concepts and things covered in that textbook, every general chemistry textbook covers. So if you find something confusing as written in that book, there's actually a website called LibreText, Open Education Resources, and they've got a lot of different chemistry textbooks available for you. So if Real Chem's not cutting it, find another one. But it is our homework platform as well. So you are required to purchase Real Chem. You have a 14-day or maybe 12-day grace period to purchase. So if you are someone that is not sure whether you're going to stay in this class or not, don't put in your credit card information until you know you're going to stay in. By the way, I want to draw your attention to this. Oops, sorry, wrong class. On our homepage, in that course calendar, I have important college dates as well. For instance, the last day to add a class comes next week on Friday, but the last day to drop a class, meaning it doesn't show up on your transcripts and no one ever knows that you signed up for it, that's September 16th. Anytime after that day, you cannot get a refund for your course, this course, or any course. And it will always show up on your transcript as at least a W that you withdrew from the course. One thing about me pushing our unit test back by a week is that your first major assignment won't be taken until after it's too late to drop the class. I would have liked for you guys to have a shot at that first major assignment so that you know what's coming for you and so that you know whether you can actually manage this class this semester or not. But unfortunately, I won't be able to do that. So if you have concerns about sticking it through in this class, if you've heard horror stories about general chemistry, there are 3 people I want to direct you to. And I don't expect you to remember their names, but they are Bonnie, Anna, and Renee, and they are our STEM success managers or mentors, and they work with students to discuss, should I stick it out or should I put it off? Should I come back to this another time? So if you have any doubts, just reach out. I'll direct you to one of them. They're happy to talk with you about how you're feeling for this class. This goes college-wide as well, this drop date. One thing that the college changed this semester I want to draw your attention to, in previous semesters, no matter what point you're at in the semester, if something dramatic happens in your life, the college is happy to hear an appeal from you so that you get your money back and it never shows up on your transcript. A parent dies, you get into a terrible accident, something terrible happens, you can always appeal. And the college has taken that away this semester. So they offer insurance, which there's a lot of debate around. $65 guarantees $2,500 back from your tuition. it's terrible because it's not something that you can plan for. You can't plan for a tragic accident that's going to happen. I just want you to be aware of it. Typically, there's an appeal process. That appeal process is removed. You cannot appeal past the drop date unless you've purchased this $65 insurance, and it doesn't go to the college. It goes to a third-party insurance company. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about it, but I do want you to be aware of it in case that's something you need to know for this class or other classes. Okay? Back to RealChem. To get to RealChem, you will need to access it through Canvas every single time. So you see that on the home page, there's a link that says register and access RealChem. That's going to open you up to this module, which then you have to go to register and log in to RealChem. That's just a lot of clicking. So what I like to do is take this page and bookmark it. I bookmark this page as RealChem, and when I click on this link, it brings me right to this link to log into RealChem. Once you open this, it pops open a new window. You can't bookmark this page. It won't work. You have to bookmark the page in Canvas. You have to log in through Canvas. Now, this is not what you guys are going to see. You guys are going to see your textbook open up. There are some things about RealChem that I want you to understand. It looks like there's a lot to do, but there's not. So it kind of tries to game you into thinking that you need to get a check mark on every page. There's a few different views as well. This one I think they call Netflix mode. It breaks your units down into the individual modules and then pages within those modules. So let's say we want to look at Module 1 in Unit 1. These are all of the pages that Module 1 has. It's a textbook. These are the pages of your textbook. Once you read a page, let's say we go to matter versus non-matter. We've read it, and we go back to this overview. It gives you a check mark. No, sorry, I haven't gotten a check mark. I'll explain why. It tells you at the top, 0 out of 10 pages, check marked. The only way to get a check mark is to go through these embedded in reading exercises. So it's asking you, is this matter or non-matter? Is this matter or non-matter? Is this matter or non-matter? After you've submitted all of these and you go to the next page, what have you, you can come back and see that now it tells you that you have gotten a check mark on that page because you did all of the interactive reading. You do not need these. So page check marks, not graded. That goes for the online students as well, which, by the way, we have a very large class, so I'm going to be inviting my 2 online sections to join if they ever want to. I don't suspect all of them will want to, but a number might enjoy getting some face-to-face time now and then. So I'm going to be offering that throughout the semester. You do not need to get these page check marks. Does that make sense? It looks like you're not done with everything until you get those check marks. You don't ever have to open those pages. Just like any other textbook, if you think you already know what matter and non-matter is, move on. Go read up on the stuff that you're confused about. And if you're really confused on something, do those interactive problems. You don't have to do all of them. Just do the ones that are helping you practice the concepts you need. Page check marks are not graded. The first time I taught this course, I thought they were. at the bottom of each of these modules, so for instance, we're at Module 1, you will see this Concepts of Matter and Energy module checkpoint. Those are graded. Module checkpoints. These are set up not as multiple choice questions all the time, but often a hybrid of multiple choice, choose the correct answer, matching, things like that. You only get 3 attempts at these. This is part of your homework. This is a homework assignment. You get 3 attempts at these. So I might suggest that you skim and scan through the reading, go and take a module checkpoint, see how well you did. What did you get right? What did you get wrong? Go back into the reading and study up just on the things that you didn't get the first time. Come back for your second attempt. Earlier we talked about the unit tests, always giving the same questions with each attempt. These switch up the questions every time. It should be set up so that when you come back for your second attempt, it is targeted for the problems that you got wrong. You don't need to repeat the things you got right. You only have to repeat the questions you got wrong. New questions, same learning objective, to see that you've mastered that idea by applying it to a new question. Those are graded. Now you'll notice that Unit 1 has Module 1, Module 2, and then at the end of these modules, that's bizarre, you will find this, Foundations of Chemistry Unit Checkpoint. These are graded. That's your homework. Module checkpoints and unit checkpoints. The pages that lead up to them, not your homework, just the textbook. Now, just to the left of this, I want to point out explorations. A lot of students in the past have had a lot of grief around the explorations. They're tedious, they're kind of long, and they're a little bit glitchy. They don't often work the way they should. They are no longer required. Instead, this semester, you can complete explorations for extra credit. The explorations are all set to 100 points. In Canvas, I've modified that to be set to 90 points. So when you finish an exploration, you get 100 points. That's the only way. It's either 100 or nothing, as far as I know. You get 100 points, and that comes back into Canvas and says you got 100 out of 90. So you get 10 points extra credit handed to your homework category. You do not have to do them. You will not lose points for not doing them. I will make sure that they remain as dashes if you don't do them. But you can get 10 points extra credit for doing them. There are 5 throughout the semester, and they all show up before the midterm. I'm not requiring hard deadlines on any of these assignments. I will allow you to do your module checkpoints, unit checkpoints, and explorations all the way until our final exam. So Thursday, December 18th. At that point, I will not accept any more submissions from RealChem. If it was a little bit easier and you were all testing on the same day, I would actually say no more submissions after you start your final exam. That's really hard for me to monitor. The whole point of all of the homework is to prepare you for your final assessment, the final exam. So what's the point of doing it if the final exam is already done? That's my mindset. One thing I want to draw your attention to, Real Chem refers to these as units and modules. If we look back at the modules in Canvas, you will see that they are laid out as units and sections. Unit 2, but instead of being called Module 2.3, or really Module 3 Atomic Theory, Real Chem, or on Canvas, we're calling them Section 2.3. So this number at the end of a section always corresponds to the module within the textbook. I know it's a bit much, but that's what you've got. Whew. Okay. One last thing about Real Chem. There is a schedule that Real Chem has posted. I tried to go in and modify that schedule according to what we should be doing based on that calendar. Can't guarantee that it's going to line up perfectly, but my aim is that you can follow this schedule. It's going to pop up. You should be doing this next. You should be doing this next. This is what's coming up. That should follow along with what we're doing in class, hopefully. But if it doesn't follow along perfectly, just ignore it. It's not going to change your due dates. You're not going to have any late points taken off for not turning them in. I will try to stay on you if you fall behind, but you're not going to lose points for not adhering to this schedule. Is that okay? Okay, other things. Real Chem's a big one. Yep. So Canvas is set up by our course lead so that you do actually have non-graded assignments that just fall into the calendar to keep you on pace throughout the semester. It's similar to that schedule I just showed you on Real Chem. Yeah, I can see how it would be confusing that it won't get crossed out since it's not graded, but it's just meant to be a marker for you to say, this is where I need to be by Thursday. I need to be reading this page. It should have the Real Chem assignments in there. I think the issue is that Real Chem doesn't populate into Canvas quite the same with due dates. So it may be showing up as ungraded assignments, but here, Unit 1 Exploration, that's a Real Chem assignment. You can't click on it and get to Real Chem. Remember, there's only one way to get to Real Chem, and that's from that one page that has a button that loads to Real Chem page. So if you don't like this format, maybe it would be better to try and use Real Chem's schedule, or to try and craft it on your own. I apologize, but it should have everything, but I can see how it is a little confusing and hard to follow. Other things.
How are the unit tests taken? I wasn't able to see them there. Is it like through the Lockdown browser?
Good question. Unit tests are on Lockdown browser. Okay,
I do apologize. I'm going to try and learn in front of you guys. Our course lead mentioned making some changes this fall. Because he felt that students were gaming the system and not learning from the unit tests. He noticed that unit test scores were incredibly high and midterm and final scores were incredibly low. So he mentioned trying to do something that would help students learn better from the unit tests to see better results on the midterm. And that was, well, a few different things. And I've locked it, so I guess you guys can't see it. Allowed materials. Okay, this is what I wanted to make sure. Your unit tests are open notes. That means the notes that I give you guys in class, the notes that you're getting from RealChem, the homework problems that you're writing down that you're trying to solve on RealChem, those are the notes that you should be bringing with you, not the internet. If you don't have the material with you, how are you going to better study for the midterm and the final? So when you go through a unit test and you see that I'm missing these concepts because my notes aren't detailed enough, I don't have good enough examples, I missed that day, and I never went back to copy down the notes. Now you know where to go in and beef up your notes, how to improve your notes, so that you can study better to prepare for the midterm and the final. So this is meant to be open note so that you can improve your notes, so that you have a better resource getting to the midterm and final. It does have lockdown browser, which prohibits you from going back, opening other tabs in theory. To be honest, I'm not a big proponent of lockdown browser. I just think that it encourages cheating. Prohibition never really solved anything. But it's not a decision that I get to make. It's one that we have to use together this semester. You have one attempt at these unit tests. And I may have misspoken earlier about the practice tests. I think you pointed out there are 2 attempts. Somebody pointed out there were 2 attempts. And I think that was a change that was made coming into the fall. It used to be unlimited attempts on the practice test. And now it's 2 attempts on the practice test, 1 attempt on the unit test. So you really want to use those practice tests to see where the faults are in your notes before you go into the unit test and find out where the faults are in your notes. So 1 attempt here. Does this need to be taken on campus? Nope. You can take this at home, in the library, in a coffee shop. Just make sure that you're going to have good internet and that you're going to be undisturbed for 2 hours. Yeah. Was there any other question on that? Part of your Unit 0 is setting up your lockdown browser to make sure that you have it ready before you get into the unit test. By the way, some of you might be concerned that if you're using notes on lockdown browser, it's going to flag you for cheating. Don't worry about it. Even if it flags you for cheating, it won't cut you off from finishing the test. And you're not going to lose any points from it because it's not cheating. I think I want to just put up here as well about the exams, the midterm and final. That's your responsibility to set up. I can't schedule it for you. And if you don't schedule it in time, you may not find an available period that fits into your schedule well. What about attendance? Personally, I don't like forcing anybody to show up to class. I want you to come because you want to come. But as part of the course designed by the course lead, I have to require attendance. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be things that come up. So I want to have a discussion with you about how many absences, excused or unexcused, you should be allowed to have. What seems reasonable? 16 weeks, roughly 30 meeting periods, not including the 2 weeks during the midterm, because I'm allowing you to not come to class those days if you don't want the review or if you want to go to the testing center during that time. So we're meeting maybe 28 times this semester. What do you think is a fair number to miss? 3? Do I have a 3? 4? Anybody 4? Can I get a 4? Oh, just 3, really? Maybe 4? 4 would 5? 5 days? 5 days would be 2.5 weeks of lecture, for instance. You could miss 2 weeks of 2 lectures plus another one. Or you could miss lecture 5 weeks in a row, just once. I think 5 is fair, to be honest. 5 is a little over a 7th. I don't know, fractions are hard. Between a 7th and an 8th of the class. Which feels like a small number, to be honest. I'm okay with 5. You get 5 absences where they won't count against you. I will be using Canvas to monitor attendance, and then that attendance goes into your participation score along with some other participation assignments. At the end of the semester, what I'll do is have another assignment that is out of 0, and I'll add 5 points to it, and that's kind of a bonus. So if you've missed 5 days, you get those points back, and if you didn't miss 5 days, you get extra participation points. Trust me, it's not really that big of a lend, but it's better than not doing it. On that note, I also want to talk about participation. Somebody brought up earlier, we have some discussion boards. You do not need to do the discussion boards for the in-person class. In fact, I maybe will find a way to disable it so you don't have to be confused about it. No, you know what? I won't disable it. They're not worth points, but if you want to go to the discussion boards, that'd be surprising to me. But you're welcome to go and post something, and maybe you'll find someone that has also an interest in going to the discussion board. I don't know about you, but I just can't get into the discussion boards. Even as an instructor, it feels like a duty. I understand it's one of the only ways for online classes to build a classroom. But there's got to be a better method. Instead, some of the assignments that you guys have are these concept quizzes. Concept quizzes are essentially reading quizzes. So they are perhaps similar to homework in that they're all multiple choice and they relate to the reading. Oh, I'm sorry. He decided to change the name. He is calling them pre-reading quizzes now. So pre-reading quizzes are required, and they all feed back into participation points. The pre-reading quizzes are much easier. In fact, this is somewhere that the lead instructor even kind of encourages gaming the system. Take your first attempt, get all these weird words into your head, figure out what's being covered in these pages, Go and read them, skim and scan, come back and answer again. It will give you the correct answers after your first attempt. So you can just kind of plug and chug the correct answers in the second time. With the idea being that you get introduced to some of the topics and you get these questions raised in your mind about what are we covering.
Are those planned to take before you do anything in the module or whatever, the readings? Like you take those before? Or do you, I guess, how's it set out?
Yeah. No, I would say, actually, it will give you some directions. But I would say go do the reading, skim and scan the reading, and then come back and try to answer those quizzes. And then if you want to, go back and understand the reading better for your second attempt, but you will have the correct answers for you. So this is somewhere you should never lose points. But I understand if it feels like busy work, because it needs to be done in order to get all of your points. I don't think that this will be as informative for you as the homework is, but there is still something to be gained from it. There are a few other things. So you guys will see the graded discussions. Those are for the online sections. But there are 2 discussions I can't get rid of. These are Feynman notes. Who read about the Feynman notes as you were doing Unit 0? Good, a good number of you. Feynman was a physics professor who did a lot of teaching on how to learn, how to think about thinking. And his method with metacognition is to take a topic that you don't think you understand well and just write everything you know about it. And then go back and compare it to your reference material, your textbook, your lecture notes, and see what you got right, see what you got wrong, see what you missed, and then do it again. Just with nothing in front of you, write everything you can think of on this topic that you're struggling with. And then go back, compare it to your reference materials, see what you got right, what you got wrong, what you missed. If you're struggling with a topic, Feynman's approach is a way to master that topic by leaving nothing in front of you and just putting down everything that's in your head and then going back to it over and over. You're required to do that for Units 1 and Units 2. You pick one topic. You maybe write a page worth of notes and you upload it into this discussion. I will go through and give you some feedback. Maybe you needed to add more visuals. Maybe you needed to add more examples. And then when you do your second one, I'll point out, hey, I see you improved on this. You improved on that. You won't have to do these Feynman notes for a grade throughout the semester, just for those first 2 units. But you're encouraged to continue that practice. You're struggling with something during thermochemistry, write down everything you know about it. What'd you get right? What'd you get wrong? Do it again. It takes time. It's a really good skill. There is a new unit, a new set of questions and assignments that we're also implementing this fall, and that is ethical use of AI. How many of you have used AI? Anybody not ever plugged a question into AI? Really? I mean, to be fair, if you've ever used Google, you're using their AI function. I even try to turn it off. You know, I heard that if you use expletives in your Google search, AI won't respond to expletives and it kind of disables it. And I think they overcame that because I put the F word into one of my searches about Mars and it still came back with an answer, an AI overview. So I personally don't like AI, and that's because I don't think it's as smart as I am. I think that it thinks it's smart, and it's got access to a lot of things. Google also has access to a lot of things, so I'd rather just find the things and go dig into them myself. I will say it's convenient, but it gets a lot of things wrong. this summer for my organic chemistry class, I ask them a question. I say, here's the name of a molecule. It's wrong. Tell me why it's wrong and give me the correct name. And I plugged that into AI. I sat there for 30 minutes saying, no, you're wrong. Try it again. No, you're wrong. Try it again. It could not figure out what was going on. And when I pushed AI to say, just admit you can't solve this problem, guess what it said? No, I can solve this problem, but you're feeding me a name that's incorrect. Yeah, that is the point, is to be able to figure out why it's incorrect and name it accurately. So AI thinks it's smart. We think AI is smart. It just has access to a lot of things. This series of assignments is meant to help you learn how to use AI to your advantage and not to just take everything that AI gives you and think that it's correct. So how many of you have used AI? Everybody raise their hand. How many of you think you know how to ask AI the right question to get the best result? Yeah, less of you. A lot less of you. That's what this is meant to do. Don't just plug in your wild thoughts into AI, but know how to ask AI something that is going to give you something useful. Ethical, meaning that you're not just using it to cheat, and I forget what the other word they used was. Useful, I think. Ethical and meaningful use of AI. So it's an interesting assignment. I'm excited to explore it with you guys because I think I also can learn something about how to use AI a little bit. Effective. Ethical and effective use of AI. Alliteration. I think that I could learn something about how to effectively use AI. Okay, again, it's a tool. If you don't know how to use the tool, it's not going to do anything good for you.
What is your post about using AI in written assignments? For example, I'm not very confident in grammar or word choice, and I usually, write something by myself and then put it to AI, asking, check the grammar, maybe, also better word choice and something like that. I usually put, some sentences at the end of my assignment, like grammar was really fine using AI technology. Is it okay for your class or no?
Well, I feel like there was that website just before AI really took off, Grammarly. They kept advertising, like, plug in your paper and we'll check your grammar. I don't know if anyone would have thought that was unethical. There are tutoring centers, writing centers, where you go in and they say, here's all the places your grammar is wrong, here's where I think you can improve your... No one thought that was unethical. So I think what you're describing is an ethical use of AI. Here's my paper, how could I improve the grammar, and are there any instances of sentence structure that aren't good? What you're not asking is, here's my paper, improve it, right? And then just taking what you got from there. I had somebody that pushed me once to use AI to write a letter of recommendation. And a lot of letter of recommendation submission portals are now saying, you must check a box. I did not use AI to write this. And I tried it once. I said, here's all the information I have on the student, write me a letter of recommendation. And I took it and I erased everything it had because it didn't sound like me, it didn't do a good job hyping up that student, and it wasn't useful. What I have done in the past, though, is said, am I painting the big picture? Am I connecting the dots? And it will say, yeah, you connected these ideas, but you could do more to make this intertwine. So use it as a good tool to help you and not just, unload this burden. So I think you're doing a good job using it ethically and effectively there. You're not going to have a lot of written assignments in this class other than the Feynman notes. And you might be able to use AI for that to say, am I covering all of the concepts? Did I cover everything? That might be a little bit challenging because AI doesn't know what we're covering and what we're not. A lot of my students in the past few semesters have used AI during the homework. They'll say, here's the problem that RealChem is giving me. Here's the answer that I plugged in that RealChem is not giving me. Show me the steps to solve it. And then they look at how to solve the problem. They go for their second attempt, and of course it gives them new numbers. and they follow those same steps to try and solve the answer. So they're using AI as a tutor. What steps should I follow to get the answer? That's a more effective way, rather than plugging in the question from their new attempt and saying, what's the answer? Yeah, it might get you a good grade on the homework. Guess what it's going to do for you on the midterm and the final? So, effective, ethical. But this assignment is meant to help you develop that skill so that you can actually get the most effective answers from AI. I'm excited for it. And it is a part of your unit test scores, I believe. No, it might be its own category. Yeah, it's its own category that's worth 10% of the grade. What I like about it is that it trains you, it teaches you on how to use AI ethically and effectively, and then it pushes you to go do it yourself, and that's what you're graded on. So I will actually get to look at your submissions and see what you're learning and learn with you as you go through this assignment. It's very cool. I'm excited a lot for it. Okay, so we've covered all of the main categories of our class. Participation, real Kim, aka homework, using AI, unit tests, and the exams. Are there lingering questions? I want to talk just a little bit with you about class dynamics, class expectations. Does anybody have any preferred expectations about technology in the classroom? Things you want to be able to do with technology and things you don't want others to be able to do with technology. It's a little surprising because like half of you have an electronic device in front of you that you're using for class right now.
I think I saw the syllabus. We're not allowed to use computers to type out notes.
Okay, if it said that, I'll try to go in and fix it
Okay.
because I think that's not useful.
Yeah.
Maybe a laptop is not the best place to take notes in a chemistry class because there will be a lot of drawings. But if I had one of my top students in OChem 1 over the summer only took notes on his iPad. And organic chemistry is a lot of drawing. So I'm not sure how he did it. But he did it. I don't have any problem with you using a laptop or a tablet to take your notes over the semester. I'm okay with that. What do you not want your classmates to do with their technology during class?
I guess just like for me, it's something distracting, taking away from my experience and my learning opportunity.
If your classmates are
Yeah.
on their laptops,
Yeah.
taking notes?
No, just taking away from my learning opportunity, something distracting.
Okay. So what types of things would distract? For instance, your classmate sitting in front of you just on their phone scrolling, will that distract you?
I don't think so, but maybe if they're on their laptop and it's something glaring or I don't know.
Sure. Even if it's just notes. Maybe we can have an expectation that we can bring up things that are getting in our way, right? So, for instance, maybe the laptops won't disturb you. Maybe certain days it will. Maybe we can set an expectation that we can communicate with one another, you to me, you with one another, to say, listen, I'm having a hard time paying attention. I'd appreciate if you could put off what you're doing until after class so that I can focus. Or I'm going to move because I want to find a better place in the classroom where I'm less distracted. Can we have that expectation where we communicate with one another? Unfortunately, we're a classroom full of strangers, but we have to learn how to communicate with one another in order for all of us to get the best out of this class. I would say volume should never be on. I will admit that in Calc 2, I would have slept through a lot of my lectures if I wasn't playing games on my phone. It kept me awake to at least hear what my professor was saying. I wasn't happy about it, but it was Friday at 2 o'clock and I'd just eaten lunch and gone outside and hung out in the sun with my friends. I would have slept. I didn't want to sleep, but I needed to sleep. And I played games on my phone and I stayed awake and I got an A in the class. So I was glad that my professor never yelled at me for being on my phone because it allowed me to actually pay attention, as weird as that might sound. So I don't have a problem with any of you doing whatever you need to do. Sleep in my class. I'll take it as a badge of honor that you find this a safe place to sleep. Play on your phones. Do whatever you need to do. Just don't distract your classmates. And be willing to take that criticism from your classmate. You're doing something on your laptop that's distracting somebody else, and they bring it up to you. There's no need to get argumentative about it. You can say, I'm sorry, I need to do this. I'll put myself in a different part of the room so that I'm not a distraction to you. That way you can keep doing what you're doing, and they can still learn as best as they can. You guys okay with that expectation? I'm okay with that. And I'm happy to be a mediator, so you can come to me with issues. What about food in the classroom? What expectations would you guys like to have?
Sharing.
I reserve the right to be the only one that takes other people's food. We start at 10 a.m. For some people, that's lunch. I had a student this summer who ate a big old sandwich at 9:35 every single day during class because he woke up at 4 a.m. every day. For some people, it's breakfast.
I was gonna say, I think we should be allowed to eat food. Just be responsible with it. Some of us have to go to work after this, and it could be hard. I think just be responsible with it. If you spill, just clean up. If you leave crumbs on the table, clean that up because no one wants to put their notebook on crumbs and take that home.
I appreciate that. You're actually paying attention to the students that come in after us. So you want to bring in food and you make a mess, just clean it up. I think we're all adults. We should know how to clean up after ourselves. I agree. If you've got food that's especially aromatic, make sure it's a good aroma, I guess. Because you might make the rest of the class hungry, and that can distract people as well. I would say don't bring in your fine china that's going to clink and make a lot of noise because that's going to distract. So make sure that you're cleaning up after yourselves, that you're not bringing in food that's going to distract your classmates. I don't have a problem with food or drink. I'm going to need my coffee every day, so I expect that I'll have that every day. What about expectations with how we communicate with one another, especially during lecture when there's ongoing Q&A? And maybe it's not directly with one another. Maybe it's indirectly about one another. What expectations do you guys want to have with common courtesy?
Let the other person finish their thoughts.
Don't interrupt. Yeah, don't interrupt your classmates while they're asking a question or finishing a thought. I reserve that right to interrupt your classmates. And I really do, because if you're trying to finish a thought that's not going to bring us anywhere in class, I will ask you to kindly save it for after class and bring it to student hours. But I don't want you guys to be interrupting one another, because if I find that it's useful for class, I think it's my classroom. I should be allowed to facilitate what discussion goes on. That sounded weird. It's our classroom, but I do see myself as a facilitator. So that's good.
I think it's just important to be kind and courteous to each other, but also side conversations during class are, at least for me, very distracting.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to focus on lecture, so.
Especially if there's a side conversation going on that includes a lot of giggling and laughing and snickering while some other classmate is trying to talk. It builds insecurity. Oh, my question was stupid. I shouldn't have asked that. I'm wasting everybody's time. Let me tell you something. If you've got a question in this class, there's at least one other person that has a very similar question. You should ask it. But if you are snickering and giggling while somebody is trying to get a thought out, it's going to build insecurity. It's going to prevent your classmates from asking questions in the future. And I don't want that either. But I think we should minimize side conversation as well. I will try to give you guys opportunities to have discussion with one another. So if you don't want to discuss the topic we're talking about, you can have your side conversations then. I think a good rule of thumb is if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So if you do think that a classmate asked a dumb question, I don't care. I don't want to hear it. They don't need to hear it. And that's just an opinion you can keep for yourselves. If I think a question your classmate asked was dumb, I'll share it. I might. I won't. I might. I'll try not to. Kristen's had me before. Would I? Have I? Do I? No.
You're very kind.
Maybe. By the way, I mentioned student hours. I want to bring you guys back to the calendar. At the bottom of this PDF, I have my course schedule, my week-to-week schedule. In yellow are my student hours. Those are dedicated for you. I appreciate a heads up if you're planning to come to them, because I don't get a lot of people that come to them. So I often plan things that I will get done in that time, but I'm happy to clear my schedule to make sure that I'm ready for you. Or if I do get a bunch of people trying to come to the same time, if you reach out and let me know that you want to come, I can try to find another time to meet with you or make sure that I've got enough time to meet with you. So to make it as easy as possible for you to schedule a time for me, I have got this QR code. You just scan that QR code and it pops open a pre-written email to me that says, Professor Flood, I would like to meet with you on this day at this time in one of these 3 locations. I love meeting with students upstairs in the STEM Center, but I'm happy to meet in my office or on Zoom, and that goes for my online students as well. So if you ever want to meet with me, just send me an email and say, tomorrow in the STEM Center during your office hour at 4:30, can I see you? Yep, I'll be there. So please take advantage of that. I've dedicated these hours to you, and I'd love to meet with you. Okay. One of the expectations that I like to have in this class, since it's a 2-hour period, is to give you a break to stand up and move around and get your blood flowing. I think that always enables you to come back a little bit more focused for the second half of class. Obviously, I blew past that today, but I still want to take about 5 minutes to let you stand up and move around. And when we come back in, I want to move away from class dynamics and actually talk a little bit about fundamental forces. So let's come back in 5 to continue our lecture.
My syllabus doesn't open for any of my classes, actually.
That's weird.
Who can I email about that?
Either e-learning or the help desk.
Okay.
I would say the help desk will direct you to e-learning if they can't do it themselves, but e-learning is the ones that are in charge of Canvas.
Okay.
So I think e-learning is the way to go.
Okay.
Let me see if I can try to find you like an email for them. It might just be as easy as e-learning.
E-learning support at SNCC.
You saw that? Oh,
It's right there.
great. There you go.
Okay, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Did anybody not get the sign-in sheet? Or not like your little slips, I mean. Sorry. Just your name, pronouns, and any fun facts if you got them. Just the sheet. That's how it's going for. Oh, you used it. Oh, yeah, yeah, no problem. You're welcome. Right away. Still grab your sheet for me. Thank you. Oh, yeah. You know in the spring how I made you fill out another one? Because I said I couldn't have yours. And I did have it. Did you? Yeah, at the end of the semester I always go through them before I throw them away. I have to write it. And I was like, oh, I still have that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can I grab your sheet?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm gonna put yours in an extra easy. No worries, I'll come back. I'm hoping today. Have you checked your email yesterday? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you much. Once the cap increases, you should get an email that says you're free to move off the wait list. And if you don't accept it, you will just get kicked off from the list and the class. So it's not going to be like an immediate admission to Canvas so much as an opportunity to join the class from the gate. I believe so, and I've not I've never seen it actually. Thank you. Is that it? How do you know? It doesn't say 12:10. You know what? I can check if that's our course.
It's the only class I'm waiting.
Oh, it must be it then. Okay, so that's a really confusing email.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't know what you were looking for,
No, it does not.
like it doesn't say join the class. It doesn't. What did it say? What was the subject of the email?
It says waitlist notification for 4018.
That's just, yeah, that's our class. So, anybody's slip I did not grab? Sorry, thank you. Mhm. Oh, your unit test, I don't think you'd be able to open it while you're on the lockdown browser. That's a good sign. Totally. For the unit test, you do wherever you want. The unit tests are like at home, at the library, whatever. If you didn't want to print out your notes, you could take the unit test at a library computer and just have your laptop open so you scroll through your notes. It's probably going to flag you and say, are you cheating? Your eyes are at the screen. And it shouldn't prevent you from actually completing it. You're welcome. So that was a good question, guys. If you take your notes on your laptop, it might be harder to access those notes while you're doing your unit test, because your unit test on Lockdown Browser won't let you open your notes on your laptop. So you might want to find a computer on campus that you can take your unit test on and have your laptop there for the open notes. Okay. Did I get everybody's card? Am I missing anybody's? All right. What I want to do for the rest of today is talk to you guys about fundamental forces. I guess maybe before I really just run away with all of this, any last questions about our class, how things are set up, what to expect? Calculator, that's a great question. You are allowed any calculator. Scientific or more standard. Whatever calculator you practice on is the calculator I would recommend bringing to the testing center. So if you practice on a scientific calculator and then bring this to the testing center, you might not know how to do all the functions that you know how to do on your other calculator. So just practice on the one that you've got. But this is a great one. That's a great one. All the buttons are just a little bit different. So it's important to know how to use yours. And I do want to take some class time in those first few weeks to actually work with you on using your calculator to make sure you know how to use it. I have heard that the testing center won't allow those scientific calculators that connect to the internet because you can like store notes or you can access the internet and ask questions. I try to tell them when I submit an exam, allow any calculator. I would be impressed if you could use that little calculator to actually help you do better on an exam. My perspective is if you need to use your calculator to cheat, you probably aren't going to do very well on the exam anyways. So I try to make sure that they accept anything. Your safest bet is a non-scientific or at least a non-internet accessible calculator. Good question. Yes.
Did you talk about the page of handwritten notes for exams?
You know what? I didn't. And that's because I'm not sure where I stand on it yet. Do you want to bring it up?
I thought it was really helpful. Like,
Was it in the syllabus? Did you notice it? Oh, I didn't see it. Nobody thought that was important to bring up? I guess I didn't see it in the syllabus, and I assumed based on what I heard Ryan talking about in the spring that he was not going to allow it moving forward.
well,
This will be an important thing to cover then.
I personally disagree with Ryan. Because that's a very good, because if you do the handwritten page of notes, I find that you don't necessarily use it on the exam very much because it's a very good way to study. I'm just saying. I don't agree with Ryan on a lot of things, but
Well, I will say this is actually more lenient than what I would have given as well. So okay, so on your midterm and on your final, I apologize. I would have brought this up, but I thought it had been taken out, and I didn't want to get your guys' hopes up. So for the midterm and for the final, you're allowed 1 page of handwritten notes. Some of you take notes on a tablet and you're handwriting, but you cannot print anything to bring with. So you need to handwrite this on paper with pen or pencil. You cannot print anything else either. You can't like print something onto that sheet and then fill the rest in with your pen and paper. Testing center will not allow it unless it is handwritten. In my organic classes, I allow a cheat sheet And I only give them one side of a sheet of paper for the midterm and two sides of a sheet of paper for the final. But I guess it's in the syllabus, two sides of a sheet of paper for both the midterm and final. I want to be very clear. This is not an advantage. If it's not an advantage, what is it? Sorry? Not a disadvantage. It's a risk. This is a huge risk. If you think that you can build a cheat sheet the night before the exam and then go in and do well on the exam, you won't. What you need to do is build your cheat sheet after you take the first unit test, and then rebuild the cheat sheet before you take your second unit test, and then rebuild the cheat sheet after your second unit test before you go in for the midterm. Rebuild it after you take your third unit test. Rebuild it after you take your fourth unit test before you go in for the final. The more times you revise your cheat sheet, the less you need it. The less you need it, the better you're going to do. Revise, revise, revise. I tell this to my organic students, and I'm telling it to you. This is not an advantage. This is a risk. You cannot depend on it unless you use it correctly. So, take advantage of it appropriately. Don't just build it one time, build it multiple times. Pull out the material that you don't need. Don't leave it cluttered. Don't leave it crammed. Put in examples of things you're still struggling with. It's similar to the Feynman notes. The more you're building it, the better you are at it and the less you actually need it. Something else I wanted to say on that.
Back to the calculators, they are very rigid with math. All the math classes I take it, they only accept TI-30X. Is that the same for chemistry?
I tell them when I submit the exam, accept any calculator. Math, I imagine, would be a little bit more specific. Actually, I am surprised. But, I don't know, they're math. You're going to use your calculator for some of the questions, not all of them. So to that extent, it's less important what calculator you have. It's more important that you know how to use your calculator.
What's the dimensions of the piece of paper that we can use for the...
Good question. Type A paper, is that the right term for it? Printer paper, 8 by 11, or what is it? 8.5 by 11? So you can't bring in a big sheet, but you can bring in printer paper. I feel like I've heard it called type A, but I think I've got that wrong. I don't think they're going to get out a measuring tape, so like if you've got something that's a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, you might get away with it, but just to be safe, just grab printer paper. I think notebook paper is going to work. Legal pad paper might not work. I think it's a little bit longer. So just be careful, but I think it should be pretty easy to get your hands on.
Can we write on both sides of the page?
Yes, front and back. That's right. And I think they might allow you to bring in 2 sheets of paper that are front only because you're using the same amount of space. Oh, a big thing about cheat sheets, they throw them away. So take pictures. If you don't take pictures of your cheat sheet from the midterm, then you're not going to know what was useful and what was not useful by the time you're building your cheat sheet for the final. And you won't get it back, and I can't get it back for you. They shred all cheat sheets that are for Canvas exams. So take pictures of it so that you can rebuild it with the same material the way you like it for the final.
You mentioned that you didn't know how you felt about like these cheat sheets. So does that mean that this is still something that we're going to move forward with, or?
We'll do it.
Okay.
Because it's on the syllabus.
Okay.
I thought that the course lead was not allowing them, and so I was going to consider it myself whether I wanted to allow it for my classes, because I have to not just consider this class, I have to consider my 2 online classes as well.
But since it's on the syllabus, I am more than happy to allow it, with you keeping in mind that this is not an advantage. This is the biggest risk I can offer you. So the conversation some of the faculty had earlier in the semester was, or earlier in the year, was that students aren't learning anything. They're just putting everything they need to be familiar with onto the cheat sheet, and now they don't know anything. And I told them, you're not telling them to build their cheat sheets accurately. My biochem professor in college allowed us a cheat sheet, and I asked him why. And he said, the students that don't need their cheat sheet, or sorry, the students that build the best cheat sheet don't use it. They don't need it. And the students that build a bad cheat sheet are trying to use it and don't do well because it's not built well. So that's where I learned. It's not an advantage. It's a risk, but you need to use it appropriately to benefit from it. Yeah? Does that make sense? It sounds like it's going to help you cheat, but it doesn't. It just helps you study better if you build it the best. Okay. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm surprised no one else thought that that was important from the syllabus. All right. I am running out of time to tell you guys about the fundamental forces, and this is actually kind of good because I forgot my prop. I've got these magnets at home that I really love to bring in and pass around and have you guys play with them. So I'm going to try and bring them in next week, Wednesday, when we meet again. But I want to talk to you briefly about these 4 fundamental forces of the universe. The first one is arguably not a force. Gravity feels like a force. It feels like you are being pulled towards the earth. It feels like the earth is being pulled towards the sun. But that's not entirely true. Einstein's theory of relativity says that space-time is just warped, and you're traveling in a straight line through bent space-time. So it feels like a force, but it's not really a force as much as it is an experience. So what things experience gravity? Anybody? Planets. Good. Keep going. Everything. Objects with mass. So let's say things with mass. Can you guys give me examples of things with mass? Planets. Asteroids. Us. Humans. Stars. Can we go smaller? Ants. Can we go smaller? Atoms. Can we go smaller? Electrons. And protons and neutrons. These are abbreviations for those subatomic particles. Electrons, protons, neutrons. And we're indicating something with those abbreviations as well. We're saying they're charged particles. We're saying that this is an electron with a negative charge. This is a proton with a positive charge. Neutrons with no charge, but they have mass. Now, some of you have taken chemistry before. Some of you have not. Do you know that these masses are not all equal? The mass of a proton and neutron is significantly heavier than the mass of an electron. So much so that we often ignore the mass of an electron because of how small it is. But that's not true that things with mass are the only things that experience gravity. What else experiences gravity? Light experiences gravity. We know that light can be bent around gravitationally dense galaxies and black holes. So gravity forces its way onto everything, things with mass and things without mass. All right, let's talk about the next force. We're going to talk about the weak nuclear force. Now, this force takes place inside of an atomic nucleus, where the protons and the neutrons are held. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next week.
The weak nuclear force is a bit strange to discuss. It's not relevant in a lot of situations. But let's take the example where carbon-14 converts into nitrogen-14 plus the emission of a beta particle. What we are demonstrating here is a chemical symbol and a chemical mass. The chemical symbol is built up of protons. The chemical mass, P+. The chemical mass is built up of protons and neutrons. So when the chemical symbol changes, we're saying that this is a new number of protons, that positively charged subatomic particle. But here, we're saying that the number of protons to neutrons has stayed the same. What's actually happening here is 6 protons with 8 neutrons are being converted into 7 protons with 7 neutrons. Sorry, getting a little sloppy there. The weak nuclear force is responsible for some of this conversion of between protons and neutrons. That's its job. We're going to learn more about what these symbols mean. We're going to learn more about how to count protons and neutrons in this class. The strong nuclear force actually takes place inside of the nucleus as well. And here we're looking at how protons and neutrons sit closely to each other. Without even knowing anything about chemistry, you might say, boy, this is a bit odd. I've got these 2 positively charged particles that are sitting right up next to each other. Why are they able to sit there? Why does that feel weird to you? What would you expect positive charges to do? Push each other away. So how are they held so close? That's the strong force. It overcomes that repulsion. And that repulsion that you already feel accustomed to, despite not knowing anything about what we're talking about, that is the electromagnetic force. How many of you have used electricity? Great. How many of you have used magnetism or magnetics? Yeah. Whether you know it or not, you have. The electromagnetic force comprises those 2 things, electricity and magnetism. They are 2 sides of the same coin. They manifest in 2 different ways. They manifest as electricity. And we can think of this as electrons and protons being attracted towards one another. Electrons and electrons being repelled from one another. Protons and protons being repelled from one another. Like charges repel, similar charges or opposite charges attract. That's our electric force in a way. And the magnetic force is similar, but it uses bar magnets. Opposite ends of magnets pull each other together. Like ends of magnets push each other apart. This is the demo I want to do for you next week with my prop. You'll feel that magnetic force. But how many of you have worked with a magnet before? You've put it on the fridge, you've played toys that have magnets in them. I think that this force, electromagnetism, is one of the most unifying features of life for humans on Earth. We've all had some sort of interaction, regardless of your age, your job, the language you speak, the country you grew up in. You've had an interaction with magnets. You know what that is. And that's everything that chemistry is built up on. It's just magnets. And these two things are intertwined. So magnets can move electrons. I charge my phone with wireless charging. Anyone else? I've got a magnet in my wireless charger and a magnet in my phone, and that magnetic field pushes my electrons into a higher energy state. And you've used electricity to make magnetism as well. Your car has an alternator in it that uses electric current and magnetism to help charge your battery. So, another example, the Earth has a magnetic field, a giant magnetic field, caused by what? Not caused by the poles, but resulting in the poles, the magnetic poles, caused by iron in the core. And iron has an electron. When that electron is unpaired, and when that electron spins around, it creates its own magnetic field. Electrons are magnets. Protons are magnets. Atoms are magnets. Molecules are magnets. You are a magnet. Just a very weak magnet. Very special magnet.
So that electromagnetic force keeps the electrons, protons, and neutrons within that atom, whatever that element may be.
The electromagnetic force is responsible for electrons being attracted towards the nucleus. Yep, it's that negatively charged electron being pulled towards the positively charged nucleus. We'll talk more about this. The last thing I want to say, and I thank you guys for letting me go over, there is a force carrier of electromagnetism. Have you guys heard of it before? Do you know its name? What carries the electromagnetic force? Propagates it, radiates it. Light. Light is electromagnetic radiation. Light interacts with magnetic fields. Light interacts with electrons. Electrons can make lights. That's what's going on here. We're pumping energy into electrons that are inside of molecules and atoms inside of these bulbs. And then those electrons release electromagnetic radiation with a specific frequency that our eyes detect. That radiation is hitting electrons in your eyes, making those electrons move up to different energy levels that send electrical currents to your brain. It's crazy. It's all chemistry. That's what we're going to be exploring today, is how electromagnetism builds, this semester. Electromagnetism builds chemistry. So whenever you get confused about what's going on, just remember, chemistry is all just special little magnets. Thank you guys for letting me go over. Thank you for your time today. I'm excited to see you next week. Good luck.